Hi there, my name is Stuart Ross and I am in Cobourg, Ontario. And I'm a poet, and I'm going to read to you from my book, You Exist, Details Follow. This poem is called 50 Words, 5 Hours Before 50, plus 50 more. And I wrote it for my 50th birthday. 50 chairs around a table, 50 collapsing cottages. 50 pairs of corduroy pants, 50 runaway weather balloons, 50 reasons to stop, 50 shadowy phantoms, 50 fireflies dancing in Vineland, 50 reasons to continue, 50 rocks on my parents' headstone, 50 unhummable songs, 50 gentle kisses, 50 exclamation marks, 50 light tracks in the snow, 50 tattered sedeurs, 50 attempts at reading how it is, 50 noodles on my paper plate, 50 trips to Gravenhurst, 50 falling coconuts, 50 familiar grins, 50 insoluble regrets, 50 bobbing matzo balls, 50 black poodles named Rufus, carrying me to the edge of a shimmering lake. This next poem is called Cobourg Commerce. The Chinese buffet opens, then closes. Another Chinese buffet opens. The Chinese buffet changes its name and opens again 2 doors away. Another Chinese buffet closes, then opens. A week later, a Chinese buffet opens. 3 months earlier, one closes. There's a new Chinese buffet down the street. It's called what it was called before it opened, then closed. A Chinese buffet has opened. And this poem is called Lineage. I step into a crowded swimming pool and look for my grandparents. They are dead on another continent. The swimmers, children and adults, part for me as chlorine fills my nostrils and silence my ears. It's the sort of silence that broadcasts from another era or from across an ocean. The water is cold against my chest, and the hand of my grandfather, whom I have never met, lies light on my shoulder. And a woman he calls his wife reaches down and straightens my collar, the collar on a shirt I'm not wearing. And I notice the pool is empty, and isn't a pool at all, but a blanket laid flat in a desert. Against the black sky, distant explosions of orange. Okay, so I've got a writing assignment for you. First, find a nice tidy place to write, like I do. And next thing is, I like the idea of writing in ways that you can't consciously plan out what you're going to write. So this is a method of writing that stops you from doing that. So what you're going to need are 2 pieces of paper, 2 pieces of lined paper. I got a pad of paper right here. So first thing I want you to do is I want you to think of a really good last line for a poem, like and then the elephant folded itself into the telephone booth, or and then everything blew up. That's not a very good line, but come up with a really good line and write it right at the bottom. Well, here I'm going to write that down here. Well, I'm just going to scribble across there, right? So you have your last line on the bottom of the page. Next thing I want you to do is I want you to think of a second last line. What's the line that comes before that? And I want you to write that one down. So now you've got 2 lines on your piece of paper. Now here's where your other piece of paper comes into the act. You've got this other piece of paper, it's folded in half. Now you cover your last line, and all you can see is the second last line. So you write your third last line. And after you've written your third last line, you cover up the bottom 2 lines, and you write your fourth last line. And you keep writing your way up the page so you can only see 1 line at a time. And eventually you're going to get so far up the page, you have no idea how your poem even ended. And when you finish the poem, what you're actually doing is you're writing the first line of the poem, and then it's really exhilarating. Give the poem a title. Wait a few minutes, let it simmer, and then you read the poem, and it's going to be a poem that's entirely new to you because you don't even know how it's going to end or where it's going to go. So give that a try. Upside down poems, or from the bottom up poems, or whatever you want to call them. Very neat way of trying to write. Okay, one of the things you have to do if you want to write really well is you have to read like crazy. You've got to read everything. You've got to read poetry and fiction and non-fiction in the back of cereal boxes. If you get something you don't like, you get a book you don't like, you throw it against the wall and you pick up another book and start reading that one. But there's one writer whose books I do not think you will ever throw against the wall, and that's M.E.C. Ferrant. She is a writer of prose from Saanich, BC. And she writes memoir, she's written novels, she's written short stories, and her short stories are my favorites. And she got books like Sick Pigeon and Raw Material, and one from about 8 or 9 years ago called Darwin Alone in the Universe, which is maybe my favorite book of hers. The thing I really like about M.E.C. Ferrant is that she writes fiction like she's a poet. She doesn't write all her stories in exactly the same way. For each story, she thinks of the form that story has to take. It might be one long paragraph, it might be like a normal story, it might be like a bunch of sentences that are numbered, it might be little paragraphs with diagrams all around them. And I really think that this whole idea of approaching fiction as an adventure that you have to reinvent every time makes for some of the most exciting reading, and I think anyone who wants to write poetry would probably really enjoy reading M.E.C. Ferrant's books. Okay, before I send you off to write, just a few pointers. Here's a few pointers from my own experience as a writer, and I started writing when I was really young, like when I was 10 or 11 years old. Hideous stuff. But okay, here's some things I learned. Most important one. Oh, here. I'll use my monkey puppet so we can actually count the bits of advice I give you. Going to put on the handy monkey puppet. If you don't have one, you shouldn't be getting yourself one. Okay, first piece of advice. Don't worry about meaning. Just don't even worry about meaning. Everyone tells you poetry is about meaning. I tell you, don't worry about meaning. The second thing, and this is really important, is, oh, there we are. Second thing, don't write to win awards. Forget awards, forget prizes. You just write to have the adventure of writing. Forget about awards. And I don't know if I can do the third monkey I have for you is what I really recommend, and I think it's neat because part of writing is having an audience. So I suggest you make a little leaflet with one of your poems, a little leaflet like that, and then you leave it in a telephone booth, if they even exist anymore, or you sneak into a bookstore and you slip it into a best-selling book, or you leave it on someone's doorstep or under someone's windshield of someone's car. Just leave your poems around, let people find them by accident, and who knows what can happen. So thanks a lot, happy writing.